In honor of you. Okay. An avid duck hunter was in the market for a new bird dog. His search ended when he found a dog that could actually walk on water to retrieve a duck. Shocked by his find, he was sure none of his friends would ever believe him. He decided to try to break the news to a friend of his, a pessimist by nature, and invited him to hunt with him and his new dog. As they waited on the shore, a flock of ducks flew by. They fired and a duck fell. The dog responded and jumped into the water. The dog, however, did not sink, but instead walked across the water to retrieve the bird, never getting more than his paws wet. The friend saw everything, but did not say a single word. On the drive home, the hunter asked his friend, "Did you notice anything unusual around my dog?" "Yeah," responded his friend, "your dog can't swim." True pessimist, right? So true, so true. I know, I like that. Oh, it's always good to have a little joke in your life, isn't it? Well, the name of the talk is When Life Gets Crazy, Press the Pause Button. And I've been thinking all week, how does that work? How does that work? One of the ways is that when we have conversations with people and somebody just is, as I said in my little video invitation, they work your last nerve, or they say something nasty to you, or they say something that they didn't mean it to be nasty, but let's say they say something and it bothers you and it hurts your feelings, and instead of going, oh, and getting all upset, we press that pause button in order to go within and see why does that bother me? And what do I have to heal? And the other time when we have to press the pause button is sometimes when we're not clear, and we're not clear about our focus about what we want to do in our life. But we don't want to press it too long, because I've had it where, I don't know if you have, but I'm pressing the pause button and I'm like, oh, this is nice. I'm just not going to do anything. I'm just going to have an earshot. I'm not going to do a darn thing. And that's when you get into having unsuccessful behavior, because I don't know about you, but I put tape over it. Oh, I don't want to move forward, or I put glue on it. I don't want to unpause that button because I like it just the way it is. And I want to not move into any new behavior because it's so scary. So I thought I would talk a little bit about how to fail. Has anybody ever told you how to fail? We're always talking to you about how to succeed and how to do everything and how to make it happen. I thought, how about if you get real clear about how to fail? Because if you know how to fail, you can switch it and learn how to become successful. So here's some of the things I wrote down. If you don't have persistence and you're stuck and you don't move forward, you're going to stop going towards your dream. Anybody ever have that happen? You get stuck, and I see this a lot when we get, I don't know what it is, we get a little bit older. I don't know, we hit our 40s and our 50s, and I was thinking about this as I was driving up. And there's a thing called, we call it in Science of Mind, race consciousness. It doesn't mean anything to do with race. Human race consciousness. What that means is that there's energy and information around us all the time that's rather negative. And what happens is that when we get, I'm going to say, inundated with that, with the news, with other people around us, and all those things happen, we get those vibrations. And then, because I was trying to figure out, how come people stop at a certain age and they're not exuberant, they're not joyful, and they're not having a good time in their life? And I thought, that's probably one of them. Because what happens is that we allow the outside situations to affect us. So when I said, hey, do 2 minutes of meditation, or do something that's going to make you more joyful and happy, you're going to dissipate that energy that's around you. I was reading in The Great Work of Your Life, and that was a book of our month last month by Stephen Cope. He talked about Ludwig Beethoven, and y'all know about Beethoven, right? But did you know that the man had a horrible, horrible upbringing? His father was an alcoholic, and he was a musician in the court, and he was ignored. His mom didn't take care of him, and at times he was totally abused and not taken care of. That's not when he lost his hearing, though. But as he was moving through his life, you know, he had this passion, and his dad forced him to learn music from like 3, 4, 5 years old. But that was also his salvation. And there's a little piece I want to read you, because he talks about in here what he did. He was unhappy. He was not thrilled with his life. But what he did, he had one thin lifeline to sanity and personal restitution: his music. And we know that, right? We know that now, but not then. However cruelly it was initially administered to him by his dad, music nonetheless came to provide him with a protected inner world into which he could retreat. His happiest hours were when the family was away and he was free to practice and improvise at the clavier. From an early age, he engaged in intensive practice, which was a kind of play that helped him reconstitute himself. Indeed, it was the only form of play open to him, and he gobbled it up hungrily. Later in his life, Beethoven on rare occasions shared memories of his early days, and he described how he practiced all the time, even at age 5, 6, and 7 years old, usually until well past midnight. And that was his savior. And I wanted to read you that because, you know, we all thought, oh, he was a genius and he had a great life. But because of his abusive behavior that his dad was creating with him, and as a child, he had, what do they call it when you're in stress all the time? Stress syndrome. And they didn't know that at the time, but he was experiencing that throughout his life. So as he became older, you know, he became more proficient, he became well known, and he didn't have the hearing loss issue until later on in life. But again, the only thing that kept him going was that he would continuously use that music as a tool for him. And he pressed the pause button on the past, and he pressed the pause button on the behavior of how he was treated by his parents, and he allowed himself to have that passion emerge in him. And what ended up over a period of time is that he became well known, and he had to take off and do a retreat for himself. He started having the hearing problem. He started having the buzzing in his ears. And he said, well, maybe if I take some quiet time and I pause, then maybe my hearing will come back. Well, over the period of months, it never did come back. But what he decided in that moment, instead of letting it take him down and letting him move into a place of failure, he decided to persevere, which is what I just talked about. And he decided to move forward regardless, because it was in his bones, and he just had that beautiful ability. Much like Stevie Wonder, right? Stevie Wonder's blind, but he is the most profound musician out there. And the same thing with Beethoven. So he continued to move forward, and he had issues with depression. He had issues with anger. He had all these issues, and above and beyond, he dug deep and went into himself in order to just bring that passion of music and heal him. And I never knew that story. I love it because we all think it was so easy for him. So if we look at our lives and we look at how we have certain things that give us passion and certain things that will help us move forward, think in your mind right now, what is that for you? What is that you use when you're down and when you need to move through your life? And if you don't know what it is, then look at it and look at finding it for yourself. The other thing was that he was committed, and he was 100% committed to his music, no matter what, and he focused on it. So he wasn't uncommitted, he wasn't unfocused, and that's another way to be unsuccessful. He was able to take care of himself. He took time to go and be in nature, and he took time to sleep and do what he needed to do in order to move forward. And he also created new ideas all the time when he was in his creativity. And when you doubt yourself, that's another way that we don't succeed, and we're not able to move forward. You know, I was talking to somebody recently, and what happens is that when we don't go inside and we don't acknowledge our innate wisdom, and we don't acknowledge that, we will not succeed. So there's people all the time, and they're looking outside themselves. They want to get an astrology reading. They want to get a intuitive reading. They want to get something that's going to help them And I've heard this before, you know, people will be in a counseling session with me and they'll say, I don't know what to do. You have to give me exactly the steps that I need to take in order to move forward. I can't do that. Only you can do that because you're the one at the end of the day that has to do it. There's a book by a psychologist called The Road Less Traveled. Have you any read that? Okay, The Road Less Traveled talked about the psychologist. And what happened is that he would help his patients and pretty much give them the tools in order for them to move forward in their life. As soon as they stopped therapy, what happened? They went down and they failed because he never allowed them to do it for themselves, to come up with a solution for themselves, to come up with what they needed to do for themselves. And that's what happened. So when you look at success, you know, what we have to do and how to fail is to not do these things. We don't persist, we're not persistent, we're not committed, we're not focused, we don't do what it takes to create new ideas and implement those ideas, we doubt ourselves all the time, we don't make decisions, we vacillate, and we're never, ever, ever clear about what we desire. And one of the things that I see a lot of times when I'm in counseling or anybody, and all the people in Prosperity Plus and people that I know that are successful, we make a statement and we say, here's what we desire, here's what we want. And then at the end of the 10 weeks, it's happened. Because we set that clear intention and we said it and we made sure that it happened for us. The other thing that we can do is to be vigilant and to focus all the time and to be aware of what our passion is. I was reading another book and it was talking about how we have to find our comfort zone, but not a comfort zone. It's like kind of like with Mark, you know, his passion, he's a speech therapist, but yet, what's your passion, Mark? Music. And he writes songs and he sings. And I know Bruce back there, because I talked to him, he is successful in a lot of other areas, but what's your passion, Bruce? Music.
Music, yes.
Music. And so what is it that'll pull you up and pull you into your life and make you joyful and exuberant? What is it? And even if you're retired, even if you say, oh, I've got all the money in the world, it doesn't matter because we need to find that joy and we need to find that exuberance in order to move forward in our lives. And what happens when we go from that place and we pull up into our passion, and because of our society, because of the way we've been trained, we don't have that capability sometimes, but when you come to a place like this or you go into groups that will help you, we can find that passion and we can move forward like we never have before. So we don't press the pause button on our passion. We press the pause button when we need to step back and become more aware of that. What I want to do in the next couple weeks is to actually take some steps and allow you to find even more of your passion. And every Sunday when you come to look at what you desire in your life. And I don't know about you, when I was in school, did you all know what you wanted to do? There was always a few, I'll be a fireman. Or there was somebody else that says, I want to be an actress. How many of those kids in school actually moved forward into those careers? Anybody? Maybe two? Two. That's it, Mel. And I look at everybody else. He's right. He was reading my mind. And what happens is that they don't move forward. They don't step back. They're moving along and they're just going for the paycheck or the benefits. And then what happens is that they lose their joy de vivre. They lose that passion to move forward in their life. And that's what I'm talking about today. When life gets crazy, press the pause button, but it's to step back from the stress, but it's also to step back and be awake and aware about what you desire and what your passion is and what do you want. And if you walk away with anything today, it's really to be in that place. I can't give it to you. I could only see it. I could see it in people and I see the sparks, but I can't give it to you. You're the one that's going to have to create that for yourself. Confucius said, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. What a wise guy. Isn't that great? Choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. So the thing I remember the most is just reading about Beethoven and how even at the end of his life, he was not a happy guy. He was sad. But what he was satisfied with is that he left this body of music for the world. He not only did it for himself, to pull himself up and to bring that passion into his life, he also knew that that music was going to shift everyone around him and create the passion for them too. It has, hasn't it? Isn't that beautiful? There's a movie that is out. I think it was a Disney movie. It's a long time ago. It was called The Greatest Game Ever Played. Did any of you ever see that? Oh my gosh, it's an inspirational, true story about a young boy, and I believe it was in America, but even at that time, this was like during the 20s, and it was golf was a very class-oriented game. You know that, right? Only the rich played, and nobody in the lower classes could get involved in the game, and this is a true story. So this young man was working on the golf course, and he was able to help, and he caddied. And there was somebody who was more open-minded, and he helped him to look at, you can enter this golf tournament, and we will allow you to do that. As he entered the golf tournament, he won, and he beat these famous golfers from around the world. Then his father said, this is why I was saying this story. Remember how I said that the outside circumstances can take you down? His father would not allow him to play golf anymore. You have to get a job, you have to work for a living, you're just playing a game and you're never going to make it. Finally, what ended up happening, he stood up against his dad and his father disowned him. And he entered one of the most prestigious games ever. And there was a man who was the world champion from England coming. And you see through the whole movie, that's why you could go get it on Netflix or probably get it somewhere free. But watch it because it's so inspirational. And he had this little caddy, and this little guy was like this tall. And they were all laughing, and he's dragging the clubs, you know, as he's caddying for this young man. And they said, oh, you need a better caddy. And this little guy was so, no, I want to do it with you, I want to do it with you. And every time he was inspiring the young man who was golfing during that tournament. And he would do this, like cross his, oh, you could do it, and have his fingers crossed. It was really cute. And it was an interesting thing that happened. This young man won that game. He won it because of his passion, but he also won it because he had that positive energy around him. But what ended up happening to both of these young men, because of that, I'm going to say because of that experience, he moved forward and became a very successful businessman, and I think he ended up owning like golf stores or something like that. And then the little caddy, the little short guy, he ended up being an incredibly successful businessman, and this is a true story. Because they were able to take their passion, they channeled it, they believed in it, and they moved forward. So they didn't just press the pause button when everybody else was around them and saying, you know what, you can't do that, this isn't the norm. They went against it and they moved forward anyway. Isn't that beautiful? So that story is really one that I think about a lot because you always see the vision and the purpose, and these kids were against incredible odds. And if you watch, I want you to watch on the freeway. I was watching this driving up. And there's different kinds of people, and I'm writing this down on a piece of paper. So there's different kinds of people. If you are driving, and you'll notice that there's the tentative drivers. Do you ever notice that? And they're like this, and they have the turn signal on, and you're like, go, 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 and they're just sitting there. Go! And that's how they do their life. How you do anything is how you do everything. And as they're doing their life, they're like waiting. And then I'm like, oh, Lord have mercy. And so I'm just driving around because I'm one of those, I'm confident and I'm sure. Woo! And then you've got the other drivers that aren't confident and sure. They're reckless crazy. You get around them, they're like, right on your tail, and then you move over, they're right on the next one tail. You've seen all this, right? Am I telling you? And so you wonder, what are they like in the world? What are they like in their life? Are they like right on everybody's tail? Are they impatient? They have no patience? So that's the other one. What's the other one? So then you've got the other one that's just so slow. They're in the fast lane. So you have the tentative, they won't move. Then you've got the turtle, and they're just sitting there, 50 miles an hour. And they're just sitting here, and everybody's honking out, and they're just sitting here. So think about, what kind of driver are you? How are you driving in your life? And which driver do you want to be? So that's a metaphor came up with that I was driving up here. Because as you do that in your life, and remember, look at your life, and how you do your life is how it's going to occur for you. Yes? Yes. So as we do that, we let go of it. We let go of the fear, and we move forward anyway. There's I want to close with this great song. Roxy let me borrow her, what do you call it? A gospel song. So this is the song, and it's a chant. And it goes like this. I can feel the spirit of, and I'm going to say, they say, I can feel the spirit of the Lord, and I'm going to get my blessings. But we're going to say, I can feel the spirit within myself, and I'm going to get my blessings. I can feel the spirit inside me, and I'm going to get my blessings. I can feel the spirit inside me, and I'm going to get my blessings. I can feel the spirit inside me, and I'm going to get my blessings right now. I can feel the spirit inside me. I'm going to get my blessings right now. I can feel the spirit inside me. I'm going to